Amanda Martin, an officer of the court, just like Scott Stark, the lawyer, who didn't dodge his deposition, while Amanda Martin was smart enough not to dodge her deposition as well. But she wasn't smart enough to not lie through the entire thing. And we're going to debunk them all right now. Thus far, everybody has dodged their deposition under the influence and control of Deuce. Yeah, the long-nosed Deuce. Except those who are officers of the court that understand there are going to be charges and sanctions if they do dodge. Scott Stark showed up for his deposition, but he lied. And Amanda Martin showed up for hers, but she lied. And we're going to dig into those lies right now. Now, I have notes from the entire deposition. First of all, Amanda Martin messages my lawyer, Randy Shockett, at about 10 after 10 p.m. She's supposed to be there at 10 p.m. and she messages, she says, I'm running a little bit late. I'm running about 10 minutes late. Well, she's already 10 minutes late. She ultimately shows up 20 minutes late. She enters the courtroom, and before she enters the courtroom, I'm already there. As I enter the court, as my lawyer enters the court, there's a buzz around the entire Levy County courthouse. Because number one, they don't like Amanda Martin. And number two, they know she's being deposed. And this is like a huge deal. The YouTuber and the previous officer of the court who has been let go. Or as she likes to say, no, she just was transferred to Gainesville. The reality of it all, whether it's them saying, hey, we're getting rid of you, but you can transfer to Gainesville, or you're fired, it's the same. One is a polite way, one's the less polite way. So the court is all abuzz. The officers, the deputies are abuzz. The court reporters are the buzz. They're all talking about it. Amanda Martin is being deposed. She shows up 20 minutes late, and she actually sits down, and the very first thing she says to my lawyer is, I didn't know Mr. Hales was going to be here. I'm not comfortable with this. Now, I find that rather ironic because she was more than comfortable to make snide remarks, faces during a bomb threat at the actual courthouse during my hearing with Lynette, where she was in. Keep this in mind because this is one of the lies she got herself caught in. She was in the courtroom that very day. And who else was there? Lynette, myself. Oh, wait, Crook? No, Crook wasn't there. He was breaking the civil protection order in the car with the child. Remember, the child that Lynette can't leave alone with Crook. Well, we'll dig into that later. But Russ the Sus was there too. Now, how is it that she doesn't feel comfortable, but she had no problem with her son, the Rhett Cunningham, assaulting me? So she's comfortable with what she did, her actions at the Levy County Courthouse that day in court, December 6th, I believe. I might be off on the date, but I believe that's the date. And she's more than comfortable with what her son did to me. But now she's not comfortable being in a federal case, being deposed with me there. It's my case. Who did she think was going to be there? Interesting. And at that point, she tries to turn on a little bit of the charm. Tries, utterly fails. As a matter of fact, she says some of the most horrific things afterwards to my attorney. And we'll get into that. So in regards to that, this is what happens. And we're just going to go, these are my notes. So let's dig in. So Deuce very first gets on and he's in the waiting room and we're waiting 20 minutes for Amanda Martin. The very first thing Deuce does is goes, how long's today going to be in? And then he says, I'm bringing in his clients. Well, his client is just Crook, no Lynette. So Crook is in the Zoom as well. Now, because this is the federal case and Crook is a defendant, Crook can be in. He may not speak, nor may I, but he can be there to hear the actual deposition. Lynette's not there, and Deuce is wanting to know how long this is going to take. Anybody want to take a guess how long a deposition is going to take? There is no time frame. Now, the magistrate did place a time frame on Deuce for his inappropriate behavior, and then my inappropriate behavior in my first deposition, where he pulled us into Pensacola. And he said, this is all you get left. That doesn't work in any other deposition. You get the time, you can't go over 7 hours, and it can be from 1 minute, okay, let's take it 1 second, to 7 hours. How do you know where the line of questioning is going to go? How do you know where their answers are going to take you? All right, so let's keep going. So at that point, as Deuce is interrupting, which is very inappropriate and unethical, he is asked to stop interrupting, and then he interrupts again. As he's being told to stop acting inappropriately and interrupting, he interrupts stating he's going to log out if this is a waste of his time. He's going on the record. I am going to log out if this is a waste of my time. Now, we haven't heard anything from Crook at this point. Crook does inappropriately and illegally communicate. So now he's threatening he's going to log out, as if anybody cares that Deuce is there in the first place. He's useless as a fish with a bicycle. There's no reason for him. I mean, there is some use to him. He's continued to incriminate his clients, himself, and others. Thank you. All right, so we keep on going on. And Randy starts to ask questions about her role as the victim's advocate in Levy County. Now, previous to being a victim's advocate in the Levy County Courthouse, she was victim's advocate for the sheriff's office. And Randy's trying to get an understanding what this position is, what she can do, what she can't do. Now, understand, Randy already knows what the position is. Randy's trying to get her to the point of opening up and then really talking about some things. Now, there was a belief that she really, really wanted to throw Levy County Courthouse, Levy County as a whole, under the bus for what they did to her because she's no longer employed by them. And there is some reality and truth to that in the deposition. But she does share that in her position with the courthouse, she has never, ever given a deposition before. Now, I find it interesting she's never given a deposition, but she then does say that she has sat in hundreds. And she was the victim's advocate for over 10 years. She knows what to do in a deposition. She knows how depositions go, which takes me back to the original part and process of her saying she's not comfortable with me being there. It's my case against my defamers, those who are trying to destroy me, my relationships, and my businesses. Obviously, I'm going to be there. All right. And so we go on through the deposition. Randy's trying to figure out what the position entails, and from Amanda's point of view. Randy obviously already knows, but Amanda's really sharing, well, this is what it is, this is how it works. And he asks, okay, well, how are you assigned victims? How do you get assigned a victim as a victim's advocate? And she says, if there's a victims list, then you're the advocate for it. Now, let's just pause right here. You understand, number one, she was the only victim's advocate in Levy County. Number two, she's not a victim advocate for Lynette. Lynette had nothing against me whatsoever. As a matter of fact, to the point where she hires Josh Silverman, or Silver Scam, and Silver Scam takes the money because, hey, free money is free money, finds himself in a huge situation, had no idea what he was getting himself into, and now he was going to be financially liable for everything Lynette lied to him about, everything that he was doing. The illegal stopping of the deposition for John Crook, liable for all of it. He had no idea what he's stepping into. All right, keep that in mind because she brings up Silver Scam. And so you understand Lynette has nothing in court against me. Therefore, Lynette is not a victim. You get that, right? As a matter of fact, to the point where her and Silver Scam dismissed the entire case. Now, I have cases against Lynette. I have illegal things Lynette and Crook have done against me. So, oh, wait, hold a second. There's that thing her son did too. Her son assaulted me at Bubba Q's. Oh. I'm a victim. Guess who my advocate is? That's right, Amanda Martin. Think about it as a major, huge conflict of interest. So she gets a list of victims. Oh, by the way, I'm on that list multiple times from Lynette, multiple times from John Crook, one time from her son. So she goes on to state that in her job as a victim's advocate, it's her job to inform these individuals of their rights. That's odd. I was never ever informed once of my rights. It's her job to guide them through the justice system. That's odd because I don't find dropping your son off or allegedly dropping your son off to assault me in a restaurant because you're married to a deputy and think that you can get away with any of this is a guidance through a justice department at all. And to be in court with them. That's interesting because she was actually in court while I was in court. But advocating for Lynette, somebody please make that make sense for me. Lynette has no case. I actually have cases. Lynette's been found guilty. John Crook's been found guilty. Her son assaults me. There's no help for me in Levy County, is there? All right, she also talks about, well, I can help guide them through a compensation fund and things along those lines. Which then we're getting to a root of an issue. You realize Randy's trying to start in slow and then get to some major issues, where we find out that she communicates with victims via text, via email, via phone calls, which we want those, right? We want anything that has to do with that. That's public information, FOIA. All right. But she states she no longer has the phone. Where have we heard this before? Oh, that's right. Lynette, Crook, the Walruses, and everybody else, Deuce, Stupid Dave, and all of these fools. Oh, I got new computers. Oh, I got new cell phones. Trying to delete all evidence. Now, in this particular case, she did say that she had to wipe the phone and she had to return it to the courthouse. So just because she wiped the phone doesn't mean any of that communication is gone. It still exists. Every digital footprint of everything done, whether you think you're anonymous, whether you think you're hiding, it still exists forever. All right, so we get into training. And Randy asks, all right, so when you become a victim's advocate, what kind of training do you receive? And her answer is astounding. None. You're literally just thrown into the position. She says, quote, my training was on the job, but I have a passion. Keep that in mind because Randy is literally going to show her a Facebook post from her that talks about her passion as a victim's advocate, even though she's no longer a victim's advocate, and she denies that it's her Facebook. Just some other Amanda Martin that looks exactly like her that used to be a victim's advocate that's posting about her passion as a victim's advocate. Okay. And so then asks, are you allowed to talk to attorneys? And she said, yeah, I can talk to attorneys, but not allowed to talk to the judge. But nobody ever told her that. As a matter of fact, she goes on to state that nobody trained her whatsoever. She later then says that there was a 40-hour class on, she doesn't even know. No training, on the job, boom, here you go. You learn as you go, you're a victim's advocate. Would that explain why she was never there to actually advocate for me? Or is there some kind of major circle of corruption and cover-up in Levy County with the courthouse, the sheriff office, and others involved? Okay, well, let's keep figuring it out. So then she's asked, are you allowed to talk to witnesses? And she says, yes, only in public, only in the public, hold a second. Are you allowed to talk to witnesses? And she said, only in a public formation, like in court, something along those lines. And yet, this is the same woman who can, so in other words, let me make this very clear. She is not allowed to talk to me, okay? If she's victims advocating for Lynette, she can't talk to me, even though she's supposed to be a victim's advocate for me, which is completely and totally ignored, set aside. So she makes rude comments toward me, rude faces towards me, says things about me to other people, and then her son assaults me. So she says, but nobody ever told me that. Nobody ever told me that. Yet she communicated with me. She's not allowed to, and yet she did. All right. So she's then asked, do you know who Russ the Sus is? And she says, yes, I know who Russ the Sus is. But then she goes on to say, but I would never, ever be able to pick him out. If he was in Walmart, I'd never be able to see him. I would never know who he was. I know him by his name because I know his son, Rock. And I know his son, and she goes on to talk about this is a very tight community. And she goes, you wouldn't understand. You're not from here. If you're from here, then everybody knows everybody and everything about everybody, but you're not from here. Okay, so this is a whole nother bigotry session again. Anybody in Levy County who was born in Levy County, which let me make this very clear, their ancestors weren't born in Levy County. They're outsiders. But if you're from the north, now we have bigotry against, them Yankees. And so you got Northerners, you got Southerners. Oh, and not only that, Jeremy's a YouTuber, and he makes a pretty good living with a camera. And so now we have an issue because he has money and we don't. At least they have a perception that I have money and they don't. Okay, and then we have the whole issue of, okay, well, Jeremy's not exactly like us. He likes other cultures, he likes learning about other cultures. He likes cultural people and experiences and ethnicities, and he likes to learn about other people and who they are and what their systems and your communities are like, but not here. Because if you're not from here, you won't understand. Complete and total bigotry, complete and total racism is what it comes down to. And by the way, it's not always color. It can be anything. It can be gender. It can be anything. North, south. All right. So we can go on as well. And when she says, yeah, I know, I would never be able to pick him out in Walmart. This is extremely important, okay? Extremely important because she says she would never be able to pick him out in Walmart. Because this is going to be the very first lie that she's caught in. And she goes on, she wouldn't recognize him in Walmart, but then she said she saw Russ immediately because Randy then asked the question. She goes, why were you sitting next to Russ the Sus in court? Set her up immediately. And she goes, I was not sitting next to Russ the Sus in court. I know exactly where he was sitting, and I was in the back, and he was up front, behind Lynette. Wait, hold a second. You just told under oath you would never even be able to recognize this guy in Walmart. And then you're asked a question about sitting next to him in the courtroom on December 6th, I believe it was. And you know exactly what he was wearing, exactly where he was sitting, exactly what he was doing. Can we say debunked? She knows exactly who Russ the Sus was. And she lied under oath. Oh, that's not the first lie. Not by any stretch of the imagination. And then she goes on to say, I was in the courtroom. I was only there to observe, which questions were asked. Well, why were you even there to observe? She's not a victim. And she goes, well, I see things on the court docket and it's normal. I would just show up on Wednesdays and I would come in on the courtroom. Listen, you understand this has nothing to do with her just showing up in the courtroom. This has everything to do with ties with Otter Creek, Russ the Sus, Rock, and all of the corruption from the commissioners to the sheriff to the courthouse. It all is tied in. And we got a northerner here with a camera, and we don't like his kind. You ain't from round here. We don't need your camera showing and exposing our corruption. Oh, interesting. Okay. Says she didn't know Feather either, that Mark Feather represented me in court. Now, this is extremely important. Says she didn't know Mark Feather represented me in court. But that very day of the bomb threat, that extreme very day where she was already caught in one lie saying she wouldn't recognize Russ the Sus in Walmart, and yet then she's asked why was she sitting next to Russ the Sus, and then she goes on to explain exactly where he was, what seat he was in, what he was wearing, the whole deal, where she was in comparison, and then she goes on to say she didn't know Mark Feather actually represented me. And yet that very day, during the scare, we all had to go to lunch, and she went to lunch at the same restaurant. And after I left, she went up to Mark Feather and said, your client is a capital A double $ Hole. What client was with Mark Feather at that restaurant? Me. Only me. Only me. So she's asked, do you know that Mark Feather represented, he doesn't any longer. That's not anything negative towards that. It's just where things are within the court system, and what he was representing me in is over now. And so now we're in federal court. And she goes, no, I had no idea. I had no idea that Mark Feather represented Jeremy. And she's then told immediately, well, that's odd because I just had a conversation with Mark Feather and he's willing to testify in court that you told him in that restaurant that his client is a capital A, double $ Hole. She then goes, I never talked to him. She starts backpedaling like crazy. I never talked to him. I never said this. I never did that. Then she goes on to change the story that I wasn't talking about Jeremy Hale's, that client. I was talking about other clients. And then it went, you said it in the restaurant. She was like, I was at his truck. You see how the story just breaks apart and the lies start breaking apart. She already knows she lied under oath. She absolutely said it. She absolutely did it. And there's a willing person to testify to it, and her entire deposition, she already knows she's caught. Lie, lie, lie. There's another lie. All right. Deuce then says he wants to move to stop the deposition for harassment. Now, you have to understand, by the way, Deuce is going to do this 3 times. He is going to coach the witness. He is going to give legal advice to the witness. Amanda Martin is represented by nobody. Nobody, nor is Deuce legally allowed to interrupt. Now, Deuce is interrupting, saying he wants to cancel this deposition for harassment under the exact same chapter and order and law. Remember when Silver Scam did this with John Crook? Well, Deuce has nothing. So all he's trying to do now, same with the depositions with people being served, he's going on in regards to how much money were you given with the check? What about this? This is the same thing Silver Scam did. And then when Silver Scam illegally stopped Crook's deposition, but I didn't pursue that in court, which I could have, illegally stopped it. And Silver Scam's note, he did it illegally, and that's why he wanted it settled outside of court and be done with it, because he got in such a huge pile of mess with Lynette and Crook, which Deuce will never, ever just go away from this. I'm filing fullest extent of the law against him. He knows exactly. He ambulance chased. He ran this thing down. He's literally conspiracy of defamation, adding other people to continue to defame me and trying to destroy my businesses. There will be no leniency. Fullest extent of the law. End of story. No mediation, no settlement discussions, fullest extent of the law. So Deuce interrupts, illegally, inappropriately. I moved to stop the deposition for harassment, which, by the way, there is no harassment whatsoever. This is a deposition. These are questions that need to be answered. He is told stop, and sanctions are going to be filed against him. And if he does it again, more sanctions are going to be filed against him. By the way, you think he did it again? I already told you he did it 3 times. 3 times. So Randy moves on the record for sanctions against Deuce for instructing the witness when the witness isn't represented by a lawyer. The witness could have had a lawyer present with her that day. She did not. And Deuce does not represent her. All right. Amanda Martin is then shown a Facebook post, which she lies again. It's from her Facebook. She lies again and says, that's not my Facebook. Randy goes, oh, so there's another Amanda Martin? She goes, must be. Oh, so there's another Amanda Martin that looks just like you. Yep, must be. That was a victim's advocate in Levy County, and now is saying I'm still passionate about being a victim's advocate, even though I'm not a victim's advocate anymore in Levy County. She goes, yeah, it must be. It's not me. I didn't do that. That's not me. That's not me. Now she's caught in yet another lie. We're nowhere near done. So then we go on in the questions, then turn to Lynette and Crook. And all of a sudden, Amanda Martin can't remember if she ever texted or if she ever emailed Lynette, because she had to give the phone back and had to completely clean it and swipe it clean and erase everything before it was given back, which we all know it's not erased. It's still on the internet. It is there. All you have to do is go and pull it. All right, she goes, I would not text people while in court. Okay, now, here's the funny part, okay? So she was asked, was she texting Lynette in court? Did she ever text? I can't remember. And she did say, okay, all right, I screwed that up in the aspect. She said she would text people while she was in court, okay? But she couldn't remember if she actually texted Lynette or not. So you understand being on your phone and texting in court, which Lynette and Rustless Us were doing, it's all on camera, is illegal. Amanda Martin being in the court with her cell phone on texting is illegal. You get that, right? She literally, under oath, admits to doing illegal activity. She would say she would text people in court. All right, and so she's asked then, was Lynette officially a victim? And so then Amanda Martin says, well, based on Macy's law, she goes, based on Macy's law, I can't tell you if anybody was a victim. Victims' identities are protected based on Macy's law. I can't talk about that based on Macy's law. Well, first of all, she's no longer a victim's advocate. She can talk about it. I'm a victim that she was supposed to be advocating for. Did she do anything for me? No. Her son assaulted me. She said horrendous and did horrendous things to me. Does that sound like a victim's advocate you want in your county? Gainesville, better pay attention. All right, so she's then asked about the aspect of the bomb scare on that date, and she said yes, that was the exact same day I was in court, and okay, hold a second. You're not going to believe this. So she's asked about what she said and the faces that she made to me outside in the parking lot outside of the courthouse. And she tells under oath, she says to Randy, that was the first time I ever saw Mr. Hales. I had no idea who he was. Now, hold a second. Now, I was there that day. The bomb scare and threat happens after she's in the courtroom. Now, remember she said she can't recognize Russ the Sus? Even if she saw him in Walmart, she wouldn't know who he was. But then when she's asked why was she sitting next to him, she explains where he was sitting, what he was wearing, everything she knows about him. I was in there too. Remember, she's the victim's advocate for Lynette. Where am I? Right there. She knows exactly who I am. She's caught herself in another lie. So she says the first time I ever saw Mr. Hales was outside in the parking lot during the bomb threat. She says, I don't remember making any comments or making a face. She says, well, I guess I could have done it. So she says she doesn't remember anything. She doesn't know who I am. Even though she was already in the courtroom with me beforehand, she knows exactly who I am. She knows exactly who Russ the Sus is. She knows exactly the client she was talking to Mark Feather about, calling me a capital A double $ hole. And then it goes to, well, maybe I could have said something or did something. But she was in the courtroom previously. She saw me. She saw Russ the Sus. And then she goes on to explain, the worst thing that Jeremy ever did is read my son's father's obituary. Isn't that amazing? So the worst thing I ever did was read somebody's obituary on YouTube. Oh, wait, hold a second. This is another instance where these fools, complete and total fools, open their mouth, do stupid things, then they're called out on it, and now they want to cry they're a victim. Keep messing around with me. You're going to find out. So the worst thing I ever did was read her son's father's obituary. Oh, wait, that all came after she did what she did to me. He did what he did to me. Wait, so no accountability for what those two did, right? Nothing. Amanda's not concerned about what she did to me. Amanda's not concerned about what her son did to me. She's worried that I read an obituary. Maybe I'll read it again. Okay, let's keep going on. And then she admits, yes, I made a face at Jeremy. Yes, I made him. I was mad. And Randy goes, well, why would you be mad about the obituary on that day with the bomb scare when he read the obituary after you and your son did all this stuff? And then she cries out for Deuce. She goes, I want to know if the other attorney is still here. And then Deuce illegally again says, yes, I'm still here. I'm still on. And then, all right, so now she's caught in her lies, okay? She's caught in her lies. Now she wants a lawyer. She wants Deuce. She wants Deuce. Are you still there? Deuce is breaking the law. She's caught in her lies. Deuce is saying he's still there. He's being threatened with more sanctions because he keeps interrupting. And then she looks at me straight in the face. And she says, I'm sorry. Now, I want you to know this is the fakest apology I've ever seen in my life. Beyond fake. She admits she didn't see me at the restaurant, but she saw Mark Feather. She says Mark Feather is a liar. And then she starts to admit she did talk to Mark Feather. And she says that Mark Feather is older and his memory is bad. And that's the issue. about what she said about me to Mark Feather. You see how this all goes? No, I didn't do it. No, that's a lie. And then they're caught in it. I don't know who Russ the Sus is. I couldn't even pick him out in Walmart. Yo, wait, he was right there in that seat, that right there in the courtroom. I know I'd never seen Mr. Hales before in my life. Okay, I did make a face. Jeremy, I'm sorry. She's caught in all of it now. Now she's trying to weasel her way out with fake apologies. Completely, totally. These people are so fake, two-faced bigots. It's disgusting. It's literally disgusting. The incompetence, foolishness that they hold in their hearts and their minds against other people. All right, so she goes on, and Deuce interrupts yet again. And he is told that there will now be sanctions filed 2 times in regards to this deposition for him coaching the witness, giving legal advice to the witness by Randy. And then she goes on to explain that she was only joking when she said these things about me to Mark. Wait, thought she didn't know who I was. She didn't see me in the restaurant. Didn't know anything about me. Didn't even know didn't say anything to Mark. Now she's admitting she did say something to Mark and she was only joking. Then there's a break. Now, Deuce has already interrupted and has been told that sanctions are going to be filed against him 2 times now. So then we take a break, a bathroom break, and it moves to the incident where her son, the Rhett Cunningham, assaults me. And she says, oh yeah, the alleged incident is what she says, which, by the way, you understand that she's already gotten coaching in regards to this by her husband, the family that she actually destroyed. And now she's with Tom, who works for the sheriff's station. And I'm sure she's gotten coaching and being in all those depositions. She goes, the alleged incident. By the way, saying alleged doesn't remove you from or relieve you of any liability legally. She goes, it was alleged. And she goes, I'm refusing to answer your questions about my son. And then she's asked, well, during that same day, did you or did you not see Mr. Hales at Walmart? She goes, yes, I did. We weren't going out the grocery door. He was coming out the pharmacy door, and I saw him. Absolutely, I saw him. And she's asked, because her son was to be served, and to this date right now, he has not been served. He's in hiding. And she's asked, do you know where your son lives? She goes, I have no idea. I have no idea where my son is. I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing. Do you know where he works? I don't even think he has a job. I don't know where he is. I don't know where he works. And she goes, I have nothing to do with my son's assault. In other words, she's lying yet again. She knows exactly where her son is. She knows what she did on that very day. She knows exactly where I was. She knows where he was. And she knows that I was assaulted by her son. She knows all of it. She's already been caught in all of her lies. She already is part of this whole corruption ring. And the funniest part is those people don't want her back. They want her out. They kicked her out. And then it goes on to the aspect of her losing her job as a victim's advocate. She says, I resigned as the victim's advocate because funding from the granting ran out and we no longer have a victim's advocate in Levy County. And they were moving me to Gainesville. And she goes, I have a passion for Levy County, which, by the way, this is a post on Facebook, remember? And she said it was somebody else's Facebook, somebody else's post, same name, same picture, same everything. Was previously the victim's advocate in Levy County. By the way, that's only Amanda Martin. That's why that whole post says, I have such a passion for, and she's going on in her deposition, I have a passion. You understand? Facebook post that she denies is hers, and what she's saying in the actual deposition, like puzzle pieces, match perfectly. And then she's asked, were you aware that Mr. Hales actually had civil protection orders against Lynette and Crook? And she goes, well, I am now, but I wasn't then. Deuce interrupts a third time. And he goes, I move to terminate this deposition. Now, keep in mind, he is not the lawyer for her. He cannot move to terminate any deposition whatsoever. He is only there to listen, and then he can cross-examine because this is part of the federal case. He can't move for anything. Then coaches the witness again, tells her, you can claim this right now under this law, under this rule. I can't terminate the deposition, even though he already tried to move to terminate the deposition. And he tells her, but you can terminate the deposition if you claim this law right now. Same thing that Silverscam did with Crook, even though Silverscam did not represent Crook. You get this? Both Silverscam broke the law and Deuce is breaking the law. Deuce isn't original enough to think of anything actually good to do. He's going to do what Silverscam did, which Silverscam created legal liability for himself, broke the law. Now Deuce breaks the law and is telling the witness, claim this to end and terminate the deposition, which would have been illegal. He is now told Deuce the third time. Deuce is told the third time, we are filing for sanctions against you again for the third time. Deuce goes, I'm logging off. And then he goes, no, I'm staying. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, Lynette and Deuce. Deuce could be, because I believe 100% Deuce's wife is going to leave him. He does nothing to contribute. She's working multiple jobs. He's got them in such a bad position right now. He's going to lose everything. Why would she stay with him? He's prime and ready for husband number 8 for Lynette. I'm husband 8th, I am. Husband the 8th, I am. I got a nose that sticks out far. Okay. Lynette has a crappy car. And then he goes, I'm logging off, I'm staying. This reminds me of Lynette. My mom died. My mom didn't die. I'm just sitting there going, I cannot believe it. I keep telling you, birds of a feather flock together. Birds of a feather flock together. These pathological, mentally unhinged individuals. Lynette, my mom died, my mom didn't die. Deuce, I'm logging off, I'm staying. Insanity. By the way, I think he has major, major issues. If it's not rug abuse, which I think he shows many signs of, it is mental. It is something very, very, very wrong and off about this unhinged individual. So then it goes into cross-examination. And Crook then speaks up, which is illegal. Deuce goes off on a tirade, interrupting constantly, which he's told again, we're filing for sanctions. Filing for sanctions. He keeps interrupting. It's insanity what he does. So Deuce finally cross-examines. He says, were you served? By the way, this is the same thing that Silverscam did. He's not original. He can't think of anything else to do. They're trying to, right now, here's what they're doing. He knows they're guilty. Deuce 100% knows they're guilty. He also knows that what Amanda did is wrong and illegal as well. They're trying to poke a hole in anything they can to try and get this thrown out, which isn't going to happen. So the only thing that he can actually try and poke a hole in is how they were served. Now, this is the same thing he did with everybody else, with Russ the Sus, the Walruses, and even Dodgy Robbie. Except for Dodgy Robbie, he actually had a lawyer in New York call my lawyer and say, hey, he won't be there, and if you're going to pursue this legally, he'll find legal representation in Florida. And my lawyer said, yeah, he better get lawyer up real quick because this is being pursued. And it is 100% being pursued. So Deuce says, where were you served? She goes, it was my home, but through my husband, so I was secondary served. And what amount of money did you get? So here's what they're doing in regards to service. They give you mileage for showing up. Now, typically this is given after, but they're trying to do the same thing Silverscam did and go, well, we want it beforehand. This ain't going to hold up in court for any of them. And she goes, well, I got this amount of money. I got $5, then I got $35. And he goes, how much money did you get for mileage? She goes, it doesn't matter. I'm not cashing the checks anyway. And he goes, you're not cashing the checks? She's like, no, why would I cash these? I'm not cashing these. So now his entire thing is thrown out. She won't even cash the check. She shows up for a deposition because she knows she's legally liable to. There's going to be contempt of court if she doesn't. There's going to be contempt of court on all the others that didn't. And there's going to be sanctions for the others. And then she's asked, do you have any knowledge of the signs? And she goes, only through YouTube and what others have sent me. She goes, I don't get on YouTube. I don't go on there. Do you have any knowledge of the defamatory statements made about Jeremy Hales by these individuals? She goes, yes. but only from the criminal complaints in the court system. And she's asked more about that, and she goes, well, everybody in the state attorney's office knew about what was going on with the YouTuber and these stalkers. She goes, do you have any knowledge about the interference with the business, Jeremy Hale's business? And she goes, only what I know from the state attorney's office, and because of Macy's law, I can't share any of this. Do you have any knowledge of the defendants, Lynette and Crook, contacting customers? She says no. Any knowledge of Lynette saying she'd interfere or she wants this YouTuber off of YouTube for good. We need to take Jeremy down. She goes, I can't disclose any of this based on Macy's law. Any claims of, she goes, I cannot talk about it. So at that point, the deposition is pretty much over. Amanda Martin is very unsettled. She's already been caught in her lies, at one point even begging for Deuce on the other end, which he illegally interrupts and sanctions are being filed. And at that point, we're off the record. Deuce has nothing to ask about. There is nothing he can do. He's screwed up so bad. And she's asked, did you tell the truth? Yes. And she goes, I know how this works. I want to read my sheet. Now, what happens is they get an opportunity to read their actual sheets, and they can change their answers. And this is why you're not seeing this until afterwards. That's why you didn't see Scott Stark's deposition until afterwards they sign off the sheet, because they can change their answers. And if they lied, they can go in and then tell the truth. Well, she lied many, many times. And so this will not be released until after she signs off on that sheet, which is given 14 days. Okay? So it's all over and done. We're off the record. And she looks at Randy, and I have to go pick up a storage unit in Orlando. And so I'm already late. I have a scheduled appointment to go do this. She looks at Randy and she goes, is this done? And she's doing this, this female, the same thing that Lynette does. An elderly, disabled woman, But then you get the other psychotic individual. We need to take Jeremy Hale's down! And all these horrific things that she said and has done to me. So she looks at Randy. Is this done? And Randy goes, yeah, we're off the record. You're done. She goes, no, I mean, is this done for good? Am I done? Am I out of this? And Randy goes, you need to ask Mr. Hales. And I look her straight in the face as I get up and I go, not by any stretch of the imagination, and not for your son either. And I immediately walk out. Well, after I walk out, she now is mad. The whole puppy dog, the whole droopy eyes thing with the tears didn't work. And she tells Randy, number one, you tell Mark Feather I will never talk to him again. And number two, I will bring a lawyer into this that will make Silver Scam look like a puppy dog 100 times more forceful than you. So now we're threatening? That's not going to look very good. Which, by the way, Silver Scam is a nobody. Silver Scam has little man syndrome, and he broke the law, and he's lucky I didn't pursue it after him. I've been so gracious with these fools. So gracious. There is no more grace. They've done this over and over, and I will make sure they stop doing this to people. I will pursue this to the fullest extent of the law. That means with Amanda Martin. That means with her son, Rhett. That means with Deuce. And most importantly, with Lynette and Crook. See you in court.